Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm here with my brother Justin to give my first way too early bowl prediction for the upcoming NFL season. Good afternoon, bro. How you doing?
Good man, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. I'm stuffed from that Mexican food I just had, so hopefully I can make it through this without falling asleep. But either way, I'm ready to give my first bowl prediction. We'll probably have a series of more bowl predictions as we go along. But I'm gonna start with this one. You ready to hear it and tell me how wrong I am?
Yeah, I'm
All
ready
right,
to
here
talk
we go.
about it.
All right, so
Anything.
here we go. So my first bold prediction for the 2022-23 NFL season is that the Philadelphia Eagles will start the season 9-0 and match their win total from last season before they get their first L against the Indianapolis Colts in Week 11. Um, just to kind of give you some of the thoughts I have. So when I look at the first half of the Eagles' schedule, obviously I see a couple games that they can lose, of course, because any given Sunday. But when you break it down, they only play three playoff teams from last year. They play Arizona in Week 5, who will be missing DeAndre Hopkins. They play Dallas in Week 6. That game will be in Philly, and then they play Pittsburgh in Week 8 after Philly's coming off their bye week. So I think that although they play some playoff teams, I think they have the upper hand the way the schedule plays out for them. Now, before I decided to make this my first bold prediction, I did go back and forth on a couple games, Dallas being one of them, because it is a divisional game. But again, I think because it's in Philadelphia, I think that Philly's going to have the home crowd behind them, of course, and they will use that momentum to come out with a victory. I was also a little iffy initially on the Washington game in Week 3 at Washington, but again, because it being a divisional game, that division usually beats up on each other, and then the Carson Wentz storyline to go along with that. But I think because excuse me, because the Commanders, I do have a new quarterback and some changes. I think they'll still be going through some growing pains that early in the season. So that's why I have Philly coming out with a W in that one. And then the last game that really gave me some pause was one that you mentioned before we started was the Minnesota game in Week 2. Now the reason I decided to go with Philly in that one is because it is at home. It's a Monday night game, so that crowd's going to be rearing and ready to go. And then we all know that Kirk Cousins doesn't have the best primetime record as a starting quarterback. So I think that's enough for Philly to come out with the win. And really, I think, Jalen Hurts is set to take a big step forward this year. He's improved every single year since being drafted, and I anticipate that that's going to continue. I was a big fan of his last year, as you know. I just think the guy just keeps finding ways to win and keep finding ways to get better. So they improved their wide receiver core with the addition of A.J. Brown. Then they have Godert. He's obviously a potential top 5 tight end candidate this year if he stays healthy. So they've got a pretty good receiving core. You got Devontae Smith, of course. And then you have Jalen Hurts himself and Miles Sanders leading the way in the running game. And the Eagles actually led the league in rushing last year. They had 2,715 total rushing yards. Obviously with those two guys leading the way, both of them had over 750 yards each. They were number 12 in points per game, just over 26 points per game. And that was without someone playing opposite of Devontae Smith. So I think the addition of Brown is going to force teams to be a little more honest on defense, especially in the secondary. If you double down on A.J. Brown, then Devontae Smith's going to see one-on-one coverage, and vice versa. You double down on Smith, then obviously Brown's going to see some one-on-one coverage, and you have Godert running in the middle of the field. So I think it's going to really force teams to find a way to commit to stopping that rushing game that is really good and still cover all of those guys running down the field because they do like to run a lot of run pass option things of that nature. So I think they're really set up to take a big step forward. And in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think they're going to be this year's version of last year's Arizona Cardinals, who started out red hot in the first half of the season and then faded as the second half of the season went along. I think the difference between the two is that Philly is going to actually end up holding on to their division lead and actually winning the NFC East, whereas Arizona obviously wasn't able to do that and really struggled down the stretch. So That's my bold prediction, my first one of the upcoming NFL season. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I like it. Because the schedule says that they could do it. I don't see any one team there that sticks out that the Eagles can't beat. The Lions right away. I mean, they got better towards the end of last year, but they're not quite there yet. I did mention Minnesota before we even, hopped on, because I do like Minnesota. They got a new coach coming in. I think more of an offensive-minded coach than they've had in previous years. So I'm looking for Minnesota Vikings offense to really take a step forward this year. That game's going to be in Philly. So if Philly's to win, that's going to be their upper hand right there. The division games really are the ones that scare me. With the NFC East, those games are always pretty wild. I've watched football for a long time. I know you have too, and we've seen some pretty wild games. More than a handful of those games coming out of the NFC East.
Yep.
So a game, for example, against the Cowboys in there, even though they're at home, Cowboys, they're a high-powered offense. They got CD, they've got Schultz, they've got Zeke, Pollard, of course, Dak at quarterback. So I like the Cowboys. I don't really have an argument to say they won't hit 9-0, but I don't think they're going to, because it's the NFL. It's a difficult task to get to 9-0, start a season 9-0. That's going to be a difficult task, but hey, they're going to be better than they were last year. Their record is going to be better than it was last year. They should have more wins with the addition of A.J. Brown. Man, it's tough to argue with you, though. Quite honestly, their schedule is not that tough. So 9-0 is not something that would really shock me. It's just, this is the Professional Football League, NFL National Football League. So that's going to be a tough task. That's my really only argument to it.
Yeah, no, I get it. And obviously I know that it's very unlikely. But again, that's what, we're doing some bold predictions.
Yeah.
As I looked through the schedule, I thought that, although it is a long shot, this is something that, is a possibility. Of course, it's going to take health. It's going to take the ball bouncing their way, more than once or twice. But I really think, like I said, for the reasons that I mentioned, that they have a shot at it. If I was to pick one or two games that, all right, these are the ones they would lose, I would say it probably would be that Dallas game. And then if I had to pick a second one, I would maybe go with the Minnesota game, as you mentioned. But I think, again, because both of those games are at home, I do believe that the Week 6 game is a Sunday night game as well. So I think, the fact that, those primetime games, that Philly crowd really gets hyped up. I know the crowd isn't the only reason that, that they're going to win. Obviously, they have to show up and play. But I think that just having that momentum and that home crowd behind them, it would be enough, especially against Minnesota. Again, Kirk Cousins doesn't have the best primetime record as a starting quarterback. He's picked up a couple wins here recently, but prior to that, that was the knock on him is he couldn't win the big games, the national spotlight games. So he really hasn't shaken that moniker yet. He's again picked up some victories, but I think that's still part of what you think about when you think about Kirk Cousins. So again, that's my first bold prediction of the year, and we'll see what happens. That's why they play the games.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's pretty bold.
All right. Yeah, I think so. But I might go put some money on it. Let's see. Either way, I would love to hear everyone else's thoughts. Please feel free to leave a comment. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for more content weekly. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later this week when we give our top 5 fantasy wide receivers. All right, bro. Have a good one.
All right.